Danvers. We're going to stand first for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this starts the October 16th school committee meeting. Danvers Public Schools is a dynamic community of independent learners dedicated to respect, responsibility, creativity, and the pursuit of academic and personal excellence. This meeting is being broadcast on Danvers Community Access Television, and is anyone else in the audience recording the proceedings? Okay. So just before we get to public comment, just want to, we did post the rules for public comment on the agenda, and just one main thing I do want to bring up before we open it up is that any topics for discussion has to be limited to what is on the agenda. So we will first start with items of interest to the superintendent, school committee, or community before we get to public comment. Anything you want to share first? No? Okay, anything from the school committee?
I just wanted to compliment Dan and his team for their presentation to the town budget conference committee last week. You guys were great, provided superb information, and I think clearly impressed the people in the room with what we're trying to do and what our needs are. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, so.
One more.
Yep.
Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Mr. Federico and draw attention to the NBC Boston clip that just came on. I think it was on, was it Sunday or? Friday. I thought it was great. It was a great workshop that they did around anti-Semitism, and it looked like it got great reviews, and just wanted, I know it took a lot of effort to do that, so just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Federico for that.
Okay, so is there anyone in the public who wishes to speak? Yes. Okay, if you come up, state your name, and limit it to 3 minutes.
Hi guys, thanks for letting us speak today. Good to see everybody. My comments today are about the MCAS, and I know that that's on the agenda today, but I wanted to know and clarify with you guys first that I have some questions and concerns about the analysis. Is that better suited after you guys speak? Or, should I just get out my questions now and then you revert back to it? I just want to make sure that, what's the best time to do that?
I would ask the questions because a lot of them probably will be answered in the meeting, in the presentation, and then if not, we can just write them down and go back to them.
All right,
yeah.
I just wanted to save everyone the time. But,
yep.
So quickly, when I got my son, I have a son in the 6th grade now and then in kindergarten, so 5th grade assessment. I saw that, we went over that, and I went to the website that they recommended to go to, and I said, you know what, let's take a look at Danvers and see how we're doing. And I know you've all done that, and we know the ins and outs. And it looks like we are right in the middle, 50%. We're on pace with the state. We're in that 50 percentile. I said, all right, let me just jump into this. And on the district profile, it had the towns that we're most like, for whether it be enrollment or scores. Everything looked good. And then I saw something that I didn't know anything about, so I had to do a little bit of homework, and these are the questions that I have for you on that, because it's pretty hard to decipher. So when I look at it, I see something called a progress toward improvement target, or accountability information. We have the scores of all the children. Some look great, some need improvement. Progress is number 1. But on there, it has the Danvers, the school district, pre-K all the way to 12, and it's a number between 1 and 100 for progress. And the average, or what's acceptable for at grade level, is a 75. I see the number here at 35%. So that struck a nerve with me. I said, what's going on? What are we doing? So I wanted to come to bring that to your attention if you didn't know that already. And how do we get better? Because at the end of the day, we want Danvers to be better. I don't think anybody moves to this town or stays in this town just to be average or below average. We want our children to succeed in the best way possible. So my questions are, am I reading that number correctly? What am I missing? And I'd also recommend, maybe, because this may not be the best forum for it, is if we have maybe a conference or a Zoom meeting, something to dive into these numbers with the community, with the parents. Because I'm sure other people have questions. And there was one more term. I'm trying to be as quickly here as I can. Where did I write it?
And we're just about 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay, give me one minute, 1 second. It was called the Criterion Reference Target Percentage. Big word.
Yep.
Big, you know. That was another concern of mine. You know, they have the assessment, the accountability, and then the trends of Danvers. And that's not just this year, that's over many rolling periods. I think it's a 5 or 7 year period. And the numbers were very alarming to me. So, again, I look forward to the numbers, the presentation, but these are the questions that I have, and educating us as a town on what we're doing, how we're doing. Do we need to change some curriculum? Is there curriculum that is maybe overlooked? Is certain curriculum taking precedence for whatever reason over something that's on MCAS? I don't know. That's why I'm here. And being, you know, open, transparent. I think maybe another meeting or something specific to MCAS so we can all digest this together and
Yep.
come up with some sort of positive, movement, I guess.
No, so I think a lot of those questions for elementary will be addressed tonight. The October 30th meeting, which is via Zoom, will, talk about middle and high school, but we also have a curriculum subcommittee meeting before that via Zoom on October 30th at 5:15, and the link and stuff will be posted before that.
Okay.
But that will be like a deeper dive as to MCAS as a whole, which anyone is welcome to join those as a subcommittee. But did you say? Okay, you're good. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will next start with information from our student representatives. So welcome, Lillian and Julia.
Hi. So today at DHS we had our assembly to kick up our Kindness Week. At the assembly, a video was shown about what kindness means to DHS, and along with a message from the Ritzer family, which was really, really nice to hear. And as a small act of kindness, the administration gave out stickers, and there was a lot of extras, so we brought some for the school committee. So we're going to hand those out at the end of our little thing.
This week is also Spirit Week, which is super fun. Today was Blue Out, and I saw a lot of people dressed up, more than I thought. It's been really good, like bringing everybody as a whole. Tomorrow is country versus country club. Wednesday's USA. Thursday's dress as a teacher, and then teachers dress up like the students. And then Friday is that whole pink out and prep for the senior night football game.
Yep. And then also we had senior night for field hockey tonight, and we have a lot of games this week, so that's really exciting.
Thank you. Any questions from the school committee?
No? Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love it.
So we are going to move things around a little bit for a minute. So we're first going, Mr. Federico, I don't know if you want to come up.
Yes, yes, it would,
Yes. Well, yes, that, and then after the, yes, dedication to library, but award first.
Which one do you want to do first?
The award.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me here. First, I just want to say thank you for the remarks about our work with NBC Boston and the Lappin Foundation. Really, the credit goes to the kids. They did a wonderful job participating in the conversations. And really the goal of that is Lappin Foundation created a video to be used in schools to really educate students about anti-Semitism. And so we'll be using that video in January for International Holocaust Remembrance Day. So the whole school will be seeing it later in the year. So we're excited to use that as a teaching tool. Tonight, this is always one of my favorite meetings to be at. We have a chance to present the 2023 Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Certificate for Academic Excellence. So this annual award honors seniors across the state who have demonstrated distinguished academic performance and personal contribution to their high school communities. So I'm very excited tonight to have one of our students here. We have Isha Patel and her family, and we'll have her come on up. And when it's time, we'll do some pictures, so don't worry. I'll wait till Isha gets up here. She can stand with me. Great. Okay. So Isha is currently the top-ranked student in class 2024, having never received a grade below A in her high school career. She's a National Honor Society member and president of the National Honor Society. She has an internship at Medtronic as part of the company's Women in Engineering program, and potentially she's excited to study engineering or chemistry in college. Not only is she an amazing student, and that course load, just to read her, this is her schedule: AP Physics, AP ELA, AP Calculus, AP Economics, and AP Spanish. So pretty good schedule. But when she's not busy doing her homework and completing her studies, she's very involved at our school. She has served on the NAACP Youth Council. She's a founding member and leader of our group Next Gen, which is a group that promotes leadership in our school around equity and inclusion. She's captain of the math team. She's involved with mock trial. She also runs cross country and track as well. So she spends a lot of her time doing a lot of different things at the high school. She also is an entrepreneur who in 2021 launched her own successful boutique offering sustainable fashion, and she sold more than 215 items and has 160,000 followers. So pretty impressive resume. So I'm very excited and honored to present her this year's 2023 Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Certificate of Excellence. So you can come over and take that from our superintendent.
Should we get a picture for Twitter? Yeah, exactly.
She deserves it.
Can you get her family up?
Yeah, did they want a family photo?
Family picture.
The whole
Hold on.
family?
No?
No. Well, congratulations.
Wow.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to stay, or if you want to head out, you're certainly welcome to stay. Go if you'd like. You can go, or you're welcome to stay.
Well, she has all the time in the world. Why not?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Federico, we need you to stay here, all right? Unless you're going for a photo shot. You're good? All right, at this time, we would like Julie Glynn to come forward, and I believe that she has some members of the DHS faculty coming with her, with Principal Federico, for a request to name the DHS library for Colleen Ritzer.
Hi, good evening. My name is Julie Glenn, and I am both a resident of Danvers and a member of the DHS Math Department. Several weeks ago, faculty members approached me with an idea to name the Danvers High School Library in honor of Colleen. I was intrigued by the idea, and I thought it would be an excellent way to honor Colleen's life and legacy, but I wasn't sure how to make the idea a reality. I also knew that two things had to be true in order for this to happen. One, that any proposal should not be made by any one person, and two, that this proposal should be made with careful thought and consideration. To my first point, I knew I first needed the input and support of the DHS community. I wanted to make sure everyone at DHS had an opportunity to have their voices heard. I created and distributed a poll to the faculty and staff to ask whether they were in favor of naming a space at DHS for Colleen. 96% of the staff was in full support, with only 4% undecided and no one opposed. With the high school staff on board, I reached out to the Ritzer family to seek their thoughts on the idea. Mrs. Ritzer spoke on behalf of the family, stating they were always hoping to find a way to have Colleen be a permanent fixture at Danvers High School. She also expressed how much it meant to her that Danvers High continues to remember and honor Colleen, and she gave full support to the idea of naming the library in her honor. Once the Ritzer family gave their approval, I reached out to Adam Federico and the DHS School Council to ask for their consideration as well. All members gave their support. Still, although we had the support we needed from the community, we were simultaneously trying to make sure that we were being thoughtful and deliberate in our proposal to name the library. Libraries, including and especially the DHS library, are not just repositories of books. They are centers of inspiration and learning, and they are often the heart of the school community. They are a place where all members of the school are welcome. When a library is named in someone's memory, it strengthens the sense of community by reminding everyone of the values and virtues that person embodied. It also ensures that their legacy lives on, not just for those who knew them, but for generations of students and educators to come. Colleen was someone who knew she wanted to be a teacher at a young age, and she believed in the power of education. It was her passion. She was someone that would spend her time finding unique and creative ways to inspire her students, and many of us were lucky enough to witness this firsthand. We would love for DHS to be able to share with the Ritzer family that the library will be named after Colleen, a person who embodies all the kindness, caring, and inspiration that we aspire to at DHS. In her short 24 years, Colleen has created a legacy that DHS has fully adopted. We believe this is a meaningful step to show the family, staff, and community that Colleen will always be remembered. So that is why I'm here tonight to formally request the Danvers High School Library be named the Colleen E. Ritzer Library. On behalf of the DHS staff, I want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. At this time, the superintendent recommends to the school committee the request to name the DHS library for Colleen Ritzer for first reading.
So moved.
Second. So is there any discussion?
I don't know
We don't really need
why this should be a
discussion, right?
first reading. I think, is it required
According
under?
to MASC rules, yeah.
It's required by,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, again, so moved for first reading.
Is there any questions, discussion, comments?
No, Julie, I just want to thank you for the letter that you had sent us. It was very heartfelt, and I think it's a wonderful way to remember Colleen, and I appreciate you taking the effort to think of some way to honor her. And I think it was done so with much love and thought, so thank you for the initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't think of a better way to honor Colleen's memory. I think it's great.
Thank you. So we'll do it as a second reading on the 30th. Yep, and then I'm sure Mr. Barr, Mr. Federico can tell you whatever that next step to get the official name out there. So thank you. Thank you.
We need a vote.
Yes, so vote as all those in favor as making this the first reading to name DHS Library the Colleen E. Ritzer Library. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Yeah. Lillian and Julie, you are welcome to stay as long as you would like. You can leave whenever you would like. It's up to you. So we'll go back to information then from the superintendent. We'll go back to order.
Great. I'd like to call up the Highlands principal, Mr. John Obremski, to present Highlands School Pride presentation.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here this evening. First, I'd like to speak about the work that the Sense of Belonging team has done at Highlands, and you can see some of the work that's up there. The Highlands Sense of Belonging team is comprised of 4 staff members and myself, and last year we took on the idea to create the Highlands High Five, and the Highlands High Five is be kind, be safe, be a hard worker, be creative, and show integrity. And so what happens is the school focuses on each of these, and on Wednesdays we meet as a school and it's called WHAM, Wednesday Afternoon Meeting, and we meet to discuss these and focus on these topics. The 5th grade class leads the discussion, and we do the typical stuff of a meeting. We recite the pledge. We cover all the kids' birthdays for that week. And it also gives the students the opportunity to share their talents each Wednesday afternoon. It's a great time, and it gives the school the opportunity to come together as a whole community. And this year we've even had some parents come in and present, and it's been a wonderful experience thus far. Along with the sense of belonging, our focus obviously is on academics, and we're excited to have the new 95% phonics program. It's our Tier 1 system for teaching phonics. We're using the DIBELS, the Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy, to measure our strengths and our weaknesses early on in our students' reading abilities. We're using ST Math in terms and investigations for our math curriculum, and we did very, very well with our ST Math participation last year. Although Smith beat us, we were in the top 5 in the state. So we won't want to come out ahead this year. We're using our knowledge build curriculum, and while Julie and Mary are going to focus on a lot of this at some point, I also wanted to discuss the multi-tiered system of supports. If you come into the building now, you'll see the kids working with different staff members at different times of the day, depending upon their strengths and weaknesses, and you'll see a lot of discussion, a lot of vocabulary building through conversation, and it's really a great model, and I'm excited that that's the model that we're using. Along with all of this, I have an amazing PAC. I can't speak enough about the PAC. It's the parents' organization that creates all the different activities. You can see up there, those are the pigs from the pig races. We do pig races at the Highland School the day before the holidays. We also do a turkey toss. We have the Monster Mash. We have the Back to School Bash. We have bingo nights. So there's a lot of fun and engaging activities. Finally, there was a student that was due to come with me. Cam Bestoller of the Highlands was supposed to present this evening. Unfortunately, he is ill, and it would be great if all of you in the community could hear his speech on inclusive practices throughout the district, not just at the Highlands School. But I would love to have the opportunity to have him to come back here and talk to all of you. This is a picture of 2 of the staff members, Mrs. Bedreau and Miss Murphy. They really took the turkey toss to another level. And so there's a lot of fun activities happening at the school, a lot of happy kids, and a lot of engaging children as well in academics. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Did the class at the pig races, do they get a trophy?
We do hand out trophies for the pig races and the turkey toss.
They're fun, the pig
Yeah,
races.
it's
My
a-
first experience was
yeah.
last year. I never knew what it was before.
Yeah, it's it's a pretty big deal,
Yeah.
and it gets taken to another level.
Yeah. No, it's good to build, though. I mean, you're building a community
Yeah,
with all these
yeah,
things.
it's fun.
So.
It's a way to engage.
So thank you. And definitely, we can have the student back when he's feeling better. We can definitely have him come in and,
All right, great.
yeah,
That'd be wonderful.
we'll organize that, yeah.
All right.
Does anyone
Great
have
job.
any
Thank you.
questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just to give a shout out to the Highlands staff, the PAC is amazing. I've had the chance to meet them at their back to school, and we'll hear more about the MTSS block, and I've had an opportunity to observe that in action. It's great to see students at different places getting what they need, and that will change throughout the year as students develop skills, and it's very impressive to see that in action. In ST Math, I know who Gigi is, the penguin that goes across, but it's fascinating to see the students pick up on it so quickly. So great job, Principal Brensky and your staff at the Highlands. All right, so we had a great presentation. Isha, wonderful. I can't figure taking 5 AP classes myself. It's amazing. So the enrollment report, we are to post with the state every 1st of October. Then we will have a second posting as well. So I just kept the numbers very simple in terms of total enrollment. The good news is our enrollment is up. And it's up this year. And I did a comparison of this year's numbers than last year's as posted on our DESE site. And you can see that overall we're up 19. The K through 5, all the elementaries are up. We took a drop at the middle school, and we're going to dig in deeper to that in our next meeting. We'll talk more about that. But I'm especially proud of Principal Federico and his work with his staff, the retention at the high school, the things that he is doing that has picked up students overall. They went up 23, and knowing as a high school, the retention rate from the incoming freshmen was much higher, and we'll talk more about that in a future meeting in terms of that part. So certainly work to be done. And I know Principal Colantoni's at the middle school is working with Principal Federico. As Principal Colantoni's in his first year, and he's working to make those connections and work on retention. Principal Federico has done some studies in terms of students that may not come to the high school, but we're looking to extend that further. And we'll talk again in more detail in a future meeting. So I think that's great news for a district. The numbers are bumping up, and I'm very particularly happy at the high school level where they bumped up. And I did have an opportunity to meet a few students this summer that were lost. I don't think they knew I was the superintendent, and they were coming back from a few of the private schools. So I just want to make that shout out now.
Thank you. Any questions?
No?
No, thank you very
Good
much.
report.
Yeah.
Good trend.
Yes. Okay, now to the unfinished business.
Okay. So the unfinished business, just asking the school committee for a second reading of policy ACAB, which is the sexual harassment policy. As discussed in the previous meeting, this is a redundant policy. It's currently encapsulated in policy AC. So this is a redundant policy, one that frankly is out of date. Our attorney recommended removing this from our school committee policy manual as we're going through a lot of revisions this year. So we had our first reading last meeting, so I'm recommending a second reading for the removal of ACAB, and the rationale is listed in terms of redundancy, and our policy AC covers all of this.
So we need a motion?
So motion to approve the second reading of the ACAB, is that what you
Removal
said,
of
right?
the-
Removal, that's it, right?
Second.
All right, so is there any discussion?
Second, if it hasn't been.
Oh, yep, there, yep. Any discussion? Okay, so all those in favor to remove ACAB to the amendment, I'm sorry, to the policy, please say aye.
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 All opposed? None? Thank you.
Okay. And I'll go back to the building in 1 second. I'll call back Mr. Federico, who's getting a lot of work tonight. But I just want to make note of the wellness policy that we presented in our last meeting. I'm recommending that we postpone and bring this back. In part of, there was some inconsistency within the policy write-up in terms of how I explained it, in terms of allowing fundraisers. The bottom line is not competing during the school lunch program. So we have a meeting with our wellness committee, which we have to have that 4 times a year. That's taking place this week. So I wanted an opportunity to bring that back to them as they created that policy, then bring any adjustments that will be made or possibly not made to the policy back to school committee in the October 30th meeting. So I just want to make a notation of that at this time.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Federico, if you could come back up, please, sir, just to provide an update in terms of the building rental and usage policy and revisions.
Okay, well, thanks for having me back. We continue to do our work on developing a comprehensive usage policy. The latest update is that we had the policy fully reviewed by our attorneys. They went through and really with a fine-tooth comb made a number of adjustments to, from their area of expertise. And there's a few other recommendations that they made that I just wanted to share for then you to maybe do one more reading and for us all to feel comfortable. So first was that the attorney recommended that sometimes when you're going from a completely sort of non-closed rental policy, which is where we currently are, to opening it up is to start small. So the attorney's recommendation, and I felt was a good one, was to start with looking at solely some athletic facility rentals or usage. So in terms of recommendation, I would recommend that once we do our final reading, I think at the later meeting in this month or November, to open up to looking at rentals of the athletic facilities at only the high school and middle school. And that way there's sort of a narrower starting point, and that will also give us a chance as a district, I think, to pilot it and to identify some of the actual working things that are going to be, who's going to oversee this, and just sort of all the details that will come once we do have this in place. And the attorney advised that that also helps us in terms of just having a little more oversight over what the facility is used for. And the attorneys felt like that was a good starting point for us, and would put us in line with a lot of other districts. So that's the main update. The other update was really making sure there was some conflicting language in the last version around whether or not alcohol could be allowed on school grounds or not, and the attorney's recommendation was to uphold that, schools are alcohol-free, and that events that we host should also align with that, no matter who the using party is. So that, again, with only focusing on athletic events, it removes some of that question. But that was another area that we did update the policy, that we had conflicting language, so we just left it in as our current policy, which is no alcohol allowed on school property. So I think those were the main updates from the attorney, that we kind of formatted the policy. We also took out the fee schedules and some of the logistics. That doesn't need to be in the policy. And then that would allow us to make adjustments more quickly rather than having to come back for multiple readings and things like that. So I think that's the policy as it currently stands. And we feel like, so maybe a second reading tonight and then perhaps one more finalization later in the month or the early November meeting to be ready to go.
Okay. So Eric, just to clarify, usually the second reading is when we vote final, right? Adopt.
That's when it
So
would be adopted.
maybe we won't make a motion today for the second one.
Whatever is procedurally
Okay.
correct. Sure.
So does anyone though have any questions before he comes back for the second reading, the final adoption?
Does this one that we have in here in our shared folder, does that reflect the changes that Adam talks about? Okay.
I believe
Yes.
I believe what's in there now should be the most up-to-date one with the changes from the lawyer, and there were a lot of it was just detailed language and things like that, but there were a few substantive changes that are in there.
Right, so it's dated October 16th in your folder. So that's the updated version.
Okay.
Can I ask then, why are we waiting until the end of the month or November?
I think we felt like we wanted to have a little more time to finalize. Number one, we still don't have any operating procedures or people identified to enact this. And we're just doing some finalized work with the town side around, get everyone being on the same page.
Chair, if I could speak. So to that piece, our next meeting's the 30th. So I think by that point, we would be able to have everything laid out as is. If it's approved on the second reading, then it could be a very quick launch. We still have the aspect of we need to find the point person who would be the one overseeing that. And that's one thing that I know we'd have worked out by the 30th. We just need a little bit more time. I just wouldn't want to launch it and then have people anticipate, right, that piece. So that would be my recommendation on the 30th when we have our meeting there.
And we weren't thinking even starting until after the new year probably anyway to rent. I mean, I think it'd be hard to all of a sudden start renting in November even if we approved on October 30th. I'm assuming, right, Adam? I mean, that'd be a quick turnaround.
It'd be a very quick turnaround.
Yeah, so we would need a little bit room in that way too.
Right, and just
Yeah.
the fact that people then know that this is available, so then that piece gets out because there's a little bit of time because once it's approved, right, we need to make sure that's fully set up. We'll have that, I believe, set up by then, but people will need to know that we actually have this and can go forth with it.
It'll let us set winter athletics practices as well. That'll be closer to being done, because obviously those will take precedence
Right.
in terms of availability.
Okay. So we are all okay with postponing the second reading till the October 30th meeting?
Yeah.
Okay?
Madam Chair, I just want to a shout out to Gabe. This was your idea, and you brought it up, and it was a good idea, and I know Adam has run with it, so Adam, thank you too, but kudos to you, Gabe, for seeing a way to get some revenue and serve the town.
And I don't even want to take credit. I think it's just the community that spoke up and looked at it, and it's like if all the other surrounding communities are getting revenue from this and they're backlogged, it's like, why can't Danvers do the same? So this is great, and I thank you, Adam, for taking the lead on this and
Sure.
getting it moving, and thank you, Mr. Bauer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Federico. I think you're done for the evening.
Yeah, I think he is. He's good.
You can go home.
So, under new business, we heard from Julie Glenn. The next item is to approve the reappointment of Michael Landers to be the representative of Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical High School for Danvers. As you know, the town moderator makes the recommendation. Mike is unfortunately very sick and was unable to come tonight, but he said that he was okay with us moving forward as long as we were okay with that. He's obviously happy to come back at any time to provide updates. So, yeah, I mean, there's not really a vote because it's already recommended. Do we have to? We should vote
We have to
technically.
vote because we approved it.
That's right, to
yeah.
prove it. Okay. So, I need a motion.
Motion to approve Michael Landers to continue to be the representative to Essex North Shore and Agricultural and Technical High School on behalf of Danvers.
Second.
So, any discussion? I just want to thank Michael Landers. I think he's doing a great job representing Danvers. I love that he comes and updates us. I think that he was a great recommendation by the town moderator, so I've been really happy and thankful that he is representing us on that school committee. So, any other discussion?
No, I would agree. I think he's done a really nice job, so
Yeah.
I'm happy to continue.
So all those in favor for reappointing Michael Landers to be the representative to Essex Tech and Agricultural Technical High School, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So none. So we'll bring it back to you, Mr. Bauer, for your professional practice goals.
Well, thank you very much. So as we're going through our process of developing our goals for our educators, for our administrative team, I too have my goals that I'd like to share with the school committee for my evaluation process. There are 3 simple goals, 2 district and professional practice goals. So the first goal is to establish the entry plan, which we've started that process. I presented the entry plan to school committee in August. And what that entails is getting out and meeting community, meeting family members of the Danvers Public Schools, our staff, and students. So I've started that process. It's going well, and I'm looking to bring everything back. The idea is to bring back all the feedback, to bring an analysis to the school committee and show what are the stakeholders saying. What are the strengths of our district, what areas that we need to improve, and what are the traditions we hold near and dear to us. But also, again, it's that balance point of what's going well in areas that we need to address. And bringing that together and showing the cross-section, as they say, to triangulate the data between the stakeholders, right? The community, the families, the staff, and students. So by February, being able to present this to you, which hopefully will be the basis for a strategic plan as we need to launch. We've come to the end of our 5-year strategic plan. So part of this too will eventually, as I mentioned in the last, or maybe 2 meetings ago, about a school culture and climate survey, that'll be weighed into that as well. That goes into more detail in terms of where people feel the schools are. Are we headed in the right direction, or are there areas that we, again, need to address and improve upon? So that is goal number 1, is the entry plan. And just before I go into the next 2 goals, these are recommended for first-year superintendents through the Mass Association of Superintendents. Goal number 2, or would you like me to go through all 3
Yeah.
and then for discussion?
Yeah, you do it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Goal number 2 is another district improvement goal, and that's maintaining momentum during transition. Essentially, to break this down, it's just being visible. It's getting out to meet stakeholders, but primarily work with our district leaders to establish and ensure that student learning goals are established and they're being met. And part of that is sitting down with each of them, which we've pretty much completed by now, to create their goals that they will submit and to go through the evaluation process, which is beginning, and that's happening. And then also by March 1st, complete all formative evaluations, which means sitting down with all the administrators. It's a midpoint evaluation to see if they've met their goals, which are connected to their school improvement plans, such as achievement, school culture, safety, all the goals that we discussed earlier. And then by the end of the cycle, to come forth with a summative evaluation of all the administrators to ensure that they're meeting their goals. So that's a big piece of it. I also view that as, again, tying into the other strands within the evaluation of the superintendent is the visibility piece, communication, and school safety, along with achievement. And then goal number 3 is the superintendent induction program, which I'm in the middle of that, so I go to superintendent school once a month. 1 month it's in person, 1 month it's virtual. It's excellent. There are, I believe, 23 new superintendents in the cohort. And we meet, again, on a monthly basis. The benefit of this program is to work with superintendents who've been in the field that are retired or they've come to the end of their superintendencies. They give back. I am fortunate that actually we all are appointed a coach that works with us. And I've spoken, and I'm going to introduce him in 1 second. He's here tonight observing me in my meeting, our meeting. But the coach is an important part of this because there are many times where ideas will come and just needing some feedback in terms of guidance and utilizing their expertise in areas of communication, budgetary, and also politically, as well as how to work that landscape, because that is new for a superintendent over being a principal. So I'm very pleased that my coach is here, John Phelan. He's sitting out in the audience right there, and I would like to introduce him to the school committee. He is available 24/7, and we're on speed dial, but he's been awesome, and I reach out to him all the time. We have our weekly meetings by phone or in person on Fridays. He will be attending various meetings throughout the course of the year to provide feedback to me. So we'll have our feedback session this week over this meeting, but it's an essential part of the induction program, having the coach. So I'm very, very happy, and John's been great. So thank you for being here tonight, John. Okay. So the completion of that goal is attending all the sessions, and then being able to utilize the information. It's actually a 3-year program, but this year is the intensive one where we meet on a monthly basis. I have a coach, and next year it'll be stretched out a little bit less. There won't be the monthly meetings, but we'll still have the coach available as well. So that's it for the goals for mine.
All right. Is there any questions, comments?
My only comment would be, I thought from the beginning when you presented your first entry plan, very organized, very ambitious, and you seem to be everywhere. So, and I love the idea of the fact-finding part of this to really get a feel for the district. So I think they're ambitious goals, and like I say, you seem to have the energy for it, so go for it.
With that being said, do you see any barriers for you to accomplish any of these goals that we should be aware of or we can acknowledge now?
I'll work backwards. So the induction program is pretty cut and dry, right? So I've been able to attend those, and they're off campus on the in-person, but it's nice to get away and to be able to really dig into, obviously you always have school issues on mind. It's hard to put the phone away, I will fully admit, but it's been extremely helpful. In terms of the maintaining momentum, I feel very good about that. We've had some great goal meetings, and I'm looking forward to, and in fact, I'm spending time in the schools. I've dedicated time to be there. For example, last Thursday I was at Smith School for the day. I was fully exhausted at the end of the day. Went for a walk in the woods. I saw ST Math at its best, phonics. I saw a very engaged staff and students, and it was clear to me that the Smith School has an outstanding principal, but also an outstanding staff and students, and very strong. So it was great for me to see that perspective. I don't know how I got out of the chairs, though. They're very small. And on this Thursday, I'll be in the Holton Richmond for the day, which would be nice, and then following, I'll be at the Riverside. So I'm building that in where I basically just set up my office. I asked the principals to take me out for walkthroughs. They're non-evaluative, but just really to look through and see, what's happening in the classroom. Another part of this that's not in the goal is Mary and myself are working on learning walks, We'll take more of a specific deep dive into what's happening in the classrooms. We'll work with our principals. We're working out our schedule for that. So that way we can calibrate with the principals in terms of what we see and what they see in the classrooms. So I feel good about goal 2. And goal 1 is ambitious, and it's getting all those interviews in is challenging. So I'm going to use probably a combination of some Google Forms with that to pull in the data. But it's been great. I've been able to speak with a lot and look forward to speaking with more. We have the superintendent's coffee. The next one takes place, I believe, Riverside on October 24th. We'll talk more specifically. That's open to all of our DPS families. And then I'll set up some more opportunities in November and December for anyone in the community. I'll try to get out to the Rotary. That's for November. I've been to Kiwanis, but I'll probably go back there. And just set up some time just to really dig in deep to what's on people's minds and launch that piece. So that part of it is a lot of work. But it's necessary because it's important to hear all stakeholders and hear all what's on their minds, but more importantly, what they feel, not only we're doing well, but where would they like to see our district to go, because this really is a great time for me to listen. And as they tell us in the program, to go slow to go fast, because I think it's really important to respect the work that's been done and has been done in the community, but also keep an open eye for opportunities for improvement. So that's a long-winded answer, I guess, sorry.
No, good.
This is where you're lucky to have the talents of Mary to sort of back you up if you can put that phone away for a while.
Yes, it is reassuring to have Mary and to really utilize her depth of knowledge, not only with just the district, but also the curriculum work that she's doing with our curriculum directors and our special education coordinators, doing a lot of trying to break down silos. So her work in that area has been outstanding and really, really valued. So yes, it does help when I'm away. But if she texts me, I better answer right away.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the results, and I love that they all really connect back to the district goals, so they're not in separation. So, thank you. All right. So, MCAS elementary presentation.
Can you refresh it, like hit escape?
All right. I'm going to hit escape.
Julie, are you solo? Or do you have
Refresh.
friends?
Do you know how to refresh at the top? Perfect.
Okay, I didn't know if you want them up or you want to do it yourself. I didn't know.
Change one thing. Thank you so much.
So next up, we're going through the elementary, and I want to give a shout out to our principals here tonight to support. Julie Pasternak, who's our elementary curriculum director, as well as Eric Oxford, who's our special education coordinator for the elementary. Again, it's a team process working with Mary and the team, but I'm very eager and excited for the presentation. Just for public consumption, we'll have the high school and middle school at the following meeting on the 30th, but we will have our assessment committee meeting on the 30th, the subcommittee, that will go into a deeper dive with a lot of the MCAS. So items that may not be covered tonight will be a deeper dive on the 30th as well. So again, I saw tons of ST math. In fact, we did a little promo for the new Chromebooks over at Riverside on Friday. They went from 22 to 23%, and the students were telling me how to do things, which it was really impressive, and just to see the phonics work and to see the interaction that I saw at the Smith School. So it's exciting to see this presentation. So I'll stop talking and turn it over. Just tell me when to click the
Okay,
slides.
good. Actually, you could click on to the next one. All right, so we're here today. I'm going to, Julie and I are going to do the presentation. I'm going to do a quick overview of the MCAS data that came out, and then Julie's going to dive deeper into our local data. We thought we'd pair that together so you can get some context for the MCAS scores. So our MCAS scores are, or our MCAS presentation is tied to the one goal that is really aligned with that data, and that is to use an assessment system, formative and summative, to gain an understanding of and take action for each student's path to achievement. So we're going to do this presentation in 3 sections. So we're going to present the math data, and so I'll do MCAS and Julie will do the local data, then we'll go to science, and then we'll go to ELA. And because that is probably the bulk of our presentation, because so much work is getting done in ELA this school year. So, so to start off, there's a goal this year in math, that K to 5 students will complete an average of 9% progress of the ST Math syllabus. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So if you go to the next slide. So just thinking about how do we look at the MCAS data when it comes in, and we look at a number of different ways. So these graphs, and I just put grade 3, 4, and 5 together on it. It's really not to see the specific data, but just to look at the trends. So looking at the trends over time from 2017 to 2023, you can see little different tracks at the grade levels, but 4 and 5 are pretty much tracking with the state, and we are above the state average in that. We also have to give you a caution, and in fact, the Department of Ed puts in a caution that in between that 2017 to 2023, we had a pandemic happen, so we missed a year of MCAS testing, and then when we came back for that hybrid year, we only did half that test, so we didn't have a full battery of tests for the MCAS. So you can't even use 2021 either as a comparison year. So Department of Education calls 2022 our new baseline year. So although I wanted to put this slide together to show you kind of pre-pandemic. A lot of people talk about, are we getting back to where we were pre-pandemic? And in math, we are. So I just thought that was a good way for you to kind of get an overall idea of the trends. The next slide goes more specifically into the MCAS data for the spring of 2023. So we look at it in different ways. We look at ourselves compared to the state, and so that's the larger box that shows you grade 3, 4, and 5, and compares us to the state average. And you can see that we're above the state average in mathematics at all 3 grade levels. And the last column has a metric called SGP, which is Student Growth Percentile. And it shows like how are the kids growing. So you can have a percent meeting or exceeding expectations, but you also get a growth score. How do the kids do on their own in growing from one year to the next? So we had growth scores of 50 and 56 at the grade 5 and 4. To give you context, what they say is average growth is between 40 and 60. 50 to 60 being high average, and 40 to 50 being average. So we're doing well and hitting right in that average area. Another way to look at the MCAS is to look at the cohort. How are they doing year after year? The individual students. The graph at the previous slide shows you grade 3, 4, and 5 over time. Different kids, but over time. So cohort data is looking at how are the kids doing each year. So in 2022, in math, we had 54% of the students meeting or exceeding expectations. And then in grade 5, they held steady and had 54% of the students meeting or exceeding the standards. Finally, another way we look at the MCAS data is to go into the curriculum side, and not just on the achievement of the students, but looking at where in the curriculum are students struggling. And so we do what they call an item analysis. We're looking at the content that's been tested on the test and see how the students are doing. So in elementary, as an administrative team, we looked at the item analysis, and we found that we were above the state in most items in mathematics. The stronger topics, we were in number sense, operations, fractions, and decimal, which is, fractions and decimals are quite challenging at the elementary level, so it was great to see that we were doing well in those areas. Weaker topics were measurement conversions, generalizing a pattern, and then word problems that involved 4 operations. So again, those constructive response questions that had students do multiple operations was challenging. So some of the constructed response questions were below the state. However, the challenge was more in the content versus actually answering those open response. Back in the old days, they were called open response. So we really kind of looked at it. It was the challenging content on the constructive response that kids struggled with. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Julie and have her talk about a little bit about ST Math and the math
Sure.
curriculum.
Can you go back just one? I just wanted to add that what is sort of important to note is that strength in fractions and decimals and number sense has been a focus of any math PD we've been doing. Allison Day is our elementary math coach, and she has focused her coaching time really around those topics because we know that there was a time when those were our weaker topics.
For sure.
And so it's nice to actually see that when we do focus, and those are deeper, really understanding of how we really need students to leave elementary school truly understanding how fractions and decimals work, because once you move into the algorithms of like, you know, flip it and multiply, you lose that understanding, and the research shows that then when they get to the older grades, they can't look at a problem and think like, oh, well, I know a fourth is smaller than a third. Like, they lose that conceptual understanding, so we really have focused a lot of work around the fractions and decimals. So there was a time when those were weaker, and so it's nice to see that they've, anyway. So now we have different weaker topics.
Yes.
But anyway, okay, you can go forward now. Okay, so like Mary said, our goal is around really utilizing our ST Math program, which is a supplemental math program that Dan referenced seeing at Smith School. It is a standards-based math program where students are engaged in grade level content work, and there's no words in the program. So they need to get the penguin across the stage, across the screen, and if they don't solve the puzzle correctly, it sends the penguin back to the beginning. And so they're getting immediate feedback, and they're working through grade level content. And so you can see that last year, our goal was around 80% completion of the ST Math syllabus. And at the end, that screenshot is from last June. You can see that every school exceeded. The check marks mean 100%. And you can also see that it was nice we received recognition at the state level at one of the conferences for having 3 of our elementary schools being on the most improved list across the state. So that was very exciting. So if you flip to the next slide, you can see that why does this matter? So there is ample research that shows that if an individual student completes at least 80% of the ST Math curriculum, there is a correlation of an increase in their standardized test scores. So Mind Research, which is the nonprofit behind ST Math, collects MCAS scores, they collect ST Math usage data, and they compare those two pieces. So they're able to say that's why we had last year that goal of 80%, because we know that that's a tipping point into where it then impacts student achievement on standardized assessments. What's important to note about that is that our goals are based around averages. So obviously if all of us are doing ST Math, but Nicole's gotten through 100% and John's gotten through 40% of the curriculum, sometimes the average can hide what's happening with individual students. So if you flip to the next slide, we upped our goal this year to 90% completion, but the part that we're really trying to focus on and making sure that that's all students. So yes, a class average could be meeting the goal, but are we looking at individual students who aren't meeting the goal, and what are we putting in place so that they have access to that grade level curriculum? And this is just a screenshot that shows if we want to be at 90% by the end of the year. Last Friday we needed to be at 10%, and you can see that all 5 schools are exceeding 10% as of last Friday. Next.
Great. All right, so we're going to move to our science MCAS data, because again, we want to end with ELA because that's where a lot bulk of our work does. So,
Mary, do you want us to do math questions first or all at the end? What do you think's better?
sure. Yeah, doesn't matter. You want
Do you want
to
to
yeah,
break it
we'll
up
break it up
that way?
and have you do math.
By group? Okay, so does anyone have any math questions?
I think I have an overall question. Is it true that if a student opts out, it's a 0? And that brings down the entire percentage? And I'm wondering if that number's increasing, because that's what I've been hearing.
Yes, yes. So if you opt out, you get a 0 on the MCAS, which means not meeting expectations. So that does bring down, that shifts our, meeting, not, the percent meeting or exceeding expectations.
May I add one more
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
So just with that piece, if a student opts out and they're in a subgroup, right, which could be a student with disabilities in a smaller group, the measurement of that is typically a small cohort. So we have to have 95% of the students taking the test. So if we're below that, we can receive, a mark from the state in terms of further interventions. So those opt-outs do impact us across the board. Obviously, at the high school, it's a graduation requirement. So that's an important piece to keep in mind when looking at the overall MCAS scores, particularly when you get into the subgroups.
Okay, and a quick follow-up. I'm wondering if it's possible to know, and maybe we could do it next meeting, if you take away the opt-out students, what the adjusted score is, if that's possible.
Yes, we'd have to do some formulas on a
Right.
spreadsheet.
No, because I just think that's
It would take
almost an unfair measure, because
Yeah.
some families feel that it's bias. They don't want their students taking,
Yeah.
their children
Yeah.
taking tests.
You would
how
only
that-
have a small percentage probably
Okay.
increase in it.
But you
because-
could tell us though how many.
Yeah, I
like,
could tell you how many opt-outs,
Okay.
because we've kept track of that.
Julie, I know MTS has started at the elementary schools. It's focusing right now on ELA, right? Or-
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, no, I asked this because I know there's certain topics like we were weaker in. So like, is there a plan like closer to the because I know you couldn't get through the whole you can't get through math, all the curriculum before MCAS. It's not possible. The year doesn't end. So is there a way that we could like put, or maybe there is a plan to put some of that into MTSS closer?
Yes, I can tell you that you're correct, that our major focus right now is around reading MTSS. There is a second block within the elementary schedules that's used for ST Math, and then it just says MTSS. So some teachers are using it, some kids are doing some independent reading practice, some kids are being pulled for additional math work, small group work. So it's not as dictated, and so teachers are using that for both reading and mathematics at the time. So there is an opportunity, it's just not as robust right now as our working on strengthening our reading side.
Okay, thank you.
The chart that you showed that had the percentages, the 47%, is this meeting or is it exceeding or is it not meeting? What is that percentage?
Meeting and exceeding
Meeting and
together.
exceeding, yeah.
So
And or above.
53% of our third graders are not meeting, correct? Is that the right way to say it?
I don't see the, I
Oh,
can't
it's
see the
this
number
slide.
on the
No,
screen, but yes, it's
Partially
subtract
meeting
from-
or
Partially
not meeting. It's partially, there's four categories.
There's four
So
categories,
The
so
percentage says how many are meeting or exceeding the expectations. So the other
the
two,
53% are partially
Partially
or not,
not,
correct?
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I appreciate the comparison to the state, but I think I still get a pit in my stomach that there's 53% of our students, or 51, or 43, whatever, that are partially or not meeting, I guess, right? So besides the ST Math, which I can give you feedback on as well, because I think some of the competitiveness in ST Math is not good for some children either, I would like to know what you need from us, because I feel like we continuously have this conversation about MCAS, but we're not seeing the changes in, you made a point about Allison, the math coach, making adjustments, right? You're seeing those. What else do you need?
So right now, we're really focused on building a very strong foundation and system around reading. And ultimately, the next step would be to take that to mathematics as well. And so I know these are all budgetary issues and concerns, but we need to really think creatively about how we provide that same level of structure and of support in mathematics as well as reading.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at, because if we need a budget for
Like
a
curriculum?
then we need to
No,
be having those
people.
types of discussions.
People. So like
whatever,
co-
if it's people.
You're saying like coaches per se.
Yeah.
What kind of
I don't know
people,
if I'm
Julie? We
allowed
need
to
to know what
say
that
that.
means.
Yeah, you sure? Go ahead.
Say it. I
Sure.
mean,
Yeah.
we don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm getting
it's
frustrated.
not curriculum, it is people.
People,
Mm-hmm.
like the coach, more
So-
Allison days.
Yes, so essentially on the reading side, we've been very fortunate to build through ESSER funding, through the pandemic. We have 8 reading teachers plus a literacy coach. So that's 9 people that you'll see have worked collectively on structuring our plan for reading and implementing that plan. On the math side, we have 1 mathematics
Oh my
coach for
God.
5 schools. So, but when you get further into the data, you'll see that the data does show our focus does have to be on reading. I'm
I
not
get
saying
it, right? Because it's
we
you have
have-
to
yeah,
read to be able to
yes.
understand the problem. I get that 100%, but that's
ideally
wild.
we would have more manpower.
Got it.
I don't even wanna
Literacy
say
coach,
manpower, but
sorry, math
people
coaches
power.
specifically.
Yes.
Yes, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank
You
you
need
for
to be honest,
saying
we
that.
don't know. We don't
Yeah.
know. We're not there, so we have to know.
We,
Can
we
you
do
share
have
how many?
some Title I math interventionists too, but so if we could beef that up, not all our schools are Title I schools, so if we
Right,
could
and that
also beef
affects
that
it
up.
because you can't
Yeah,
put
right.
it in a school that does not
Yeah.
Title I.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
ideally, how many coaches do we need?
We're
It would
asking for a wish
be-
list, Julie,
what-
so.
This is
Ideally, it would be amazing to have 2 Allisons, and then we do have a couple math tutors, but those are only at the Title I buildings, and so that leaves Smith and Thorpe. It would be nice to be able to fund tutoring positions for Smith and Thorpe so that we could roll out the same model at all 5 schools.
So that's 4.
And the funding source obviously could be different for Great Oak, Highlands, and Riverside. We can fund the tutors through Title I grant money. But Smith and Thorpe right now do not qualify for Title I money, so we would have to budgetarily fund math tutors at Smith and Thorpe.
Like part-time tutors?
Part-time, yes.
Gotcha,
Yep.
okay. Okay.
But, Madam Chair, I just think it's good for us to have this conversation right now, because if we're constantly going into this turn, we're
Yeah.
just churning it over and over and over, and we're coming into budget season, like, let's include that into the budget for 20.
Allison is absolutely amazing. She works miracles and comes up with amazing resources, but she's only one person across 5 elementary schools. And so if she had more of a team, she would leverage that and get a lot done, accomplished.
Okay.
Just 2 quick comments, if I may. On slide 4, if you, when we go back to that, is that same one? There we go, perfect, yeah. So, yeah, to Alice's point, that's how I did it. I reversed using my amazing math, I reversed it and said 53 are either partially or not. In the future, when we do build these slides, could we please put down, could we break that down? I know these are a little bit more positive, and if I was presenting it, I'd like to display the positives too, but I'd love to see between partially and not meeting, I'd love to see how that breaks down.
Like is our not meeting lowering? Are we getting it like less, like percent less?
That answer is different for each school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then just one other comment on the ST Math. I think it's great to continue to tell that story also to the public, because a parent would look at it and just see that their kids are playing math games, right? Oh, great! But you actually have outcomes that show that if they hit a certain level. So I think it's good that we do message that a little bit more to the community. I wasn't aware of it just as a parent, so I'd love to see that more to get out to everybody, know why the kids are doing that, and that there is.
And we're hoping they also build some perseverance in problem solving, so you get that feedback, it doesn't work, what else can you try?
Right.
What do you know, and what else could you change? There's always only one variable on the screen that you can manipulate, so the students know, okay, what can I manipulate, what else could I try? So getting that perseverance and really sticking with something, it doesn't work the first time, but you don't have to wait for that feedback. Gigi goes right back.
Right. Right.
I have one question, Madam Chair.
Yep.
Julie, when you look at the MCAS weaker topics and stronger topics, do our own assessments, the non-MCAS assessments, they correlate to that, so we're confident this is what we need to work on?
Yes, we did shift those topics that are listed now under stronger topics. That is what we focused our local assessments on for the last few years, because we know how important building that number sense is, that fractions and those decimals, and so that is what we had focused. Allison picks formative assessments for every unit. That's the data we collect, that's the data we're looking at to plan for instruction, and so they were focused on what ended up then being stronger topics. So we then will utilize this information to make adjustments as to what data we are collecting moving into upcoming school years.
So it feels like, because of the manpower situation, you're kind of playing whack-a-mole with math topics. You focus on this and the scores go up, but you can't focus on everything. So other talents go down, or other abilities. So
I have to.
I think you need more people.
Yeah, I have to say that the weaker topics, measurement, conversions, and like generalizing a pattern, there are not as many questions on those topics as there are in the number sense and fractions and decimals. So we've put our eggs in the right basket.
It's a good sign.
Yeah. So, but then it says when we are doing the measurement conversions, the teachers should be looking at what the topics are that are tested on the MCAS, so that they can shore that up when they're teaching it. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Science.
Okay, well, science. Science is an interesting topic because the science test is different than the ELA and math test. ELA and math is given every year, grade 3, 4, and 5. Science is given once in 5th grade, and it is accumulation of their elementary science knowledge that the test tests. So it's quite a bit for kids to remember. So we are below the state average in science. You can see we are trending with the state in this slide, but we still definitely have a gap here. with that. So we have work to do in science, although now we're switching over to a knowledge-based curriculum instead of just 100% a science curriculum, which we think is going to help improve, because in the end, the way the MCAS is right now, it is a knowledge test and not so much being a scientist test, which they actually are about to change. They are looking to do piloting around performance assessments in science as a pilot test at in the spring. So that was more to come on that. There's an information session on that this week. But right now, it is a knowledge-based test. So I'm going to turn it over to Julie to talk about that a little bit more.
So as you can see, our science scores are not great. There are two things that I wanted to say about this. The first is that this is a cumulative test, so rather than a third grade test, fourth grade test, fifth grade test, these are fifth graders tested on standards from kindergarten through fifth grade. So within that, I'm not trying to use this as an excuse at all, but within that there was a pandemic and we did not focus on science for a couple of those years. So I did teach science virtually, but I can tell you that I don't know how effective my science instruction was to second graders via the internet. The second thing is that I truly believe that in our shifting of our ELA work, which I'll talk more about in a minute, we are going to see an increase in our science scores. We are heavily focused on picking a knowledge building curriculum, one that's aligned to aligned as well as it can be to the Massachusetts frameworks. In addition, so for example, we're planning the remainder of this school year based on whichever knowledge building curriculum we pick for the remainder of the school year. We're also looking at which science units are best aligned, and we're actually doubling up on some of our science content. So they're going to be learning science through literacy and through science units. And we are looking at kindergarten and they have they could have a knowledge building unit on sunlight and weather, and also a science unit as well, and overlapping topics. So I truly believe that while our focus needs to be around literacy, one of the major prongs of that work is building students' content knowledge in social studies and science. And so the science work will really dovetail with the literacy work going forward as sort of a true two-pronged approach, so that students are increasing their background knowledge and vocabulary through literacy and science as well.
So, science questions.
Are there such things as science coaches?
Nope.
Okay.
No, they don't. I've never heard of one.
Honestly, it's not on my wish list. I really believe that we're prioritizing, as with any situation, we have to prioritize our money, our resources, and our time. And I believe that we are prioritizing correctly around literacy, and that the science MCAS in fifth grade, the more content and background knowledge we can build in science with kids in K1, 2, 3, and 4 will increase our science scores in fifth grade. So I honestly believe we can accomplish two things with one plan, one giant plan. Yep.
Question,
a bigger
Julie.
plan.
So we're obviously an elementary model in grade 5, but then they go to grade 6 and they have, social studies and science every day, where in elementary they don't have it every day and it's short. Is there I'm not saying for next year, maybe this in a couple years, but to think about making grade 5 like a little bit more of, not exactly middle school, but like a little bit more traditional, because I'm assuming that when they get to 6th grade, they don't have the solid social studies and science skills because they don't
that's
have
not
it every
the way
day.
we've been
I feel like
teaching
our MCAS
literacy.
for science is one of the better subjects at the middle school, isn't it?
Yes.
But like,
What's the disconnect, though?
well, I'm just saying they're testing K through 5, but they don't have science
Yes,
every
more
day.
No, I know.
Oh, you have
I don't
science
know
teachers teaching.
but I know you have to fit the literacy block is like 90 minutes and math and all that.
Yep.
that might
So
not be
we do, again,
possible.
we have finite amount of time within the day, and that's why I think it's important that in our plan going forward, we look to be as efficient as possible with our time. And the opportune time is when we are shifting to a knowledge building curriculum next fall. We'll get how to efficiently meet social studies standards, science standards within the knowledge literacy block. The caveat to that I'm concerned about is the knowledge building curriculums do not have the hands-on component of science. So we have to think creatively about how we still build in that part, even if we're building the content knowledge and the vocabulary around a particular science phenomenon during our literacy time. When are they still getting the opportunity to do the hands-on? And that is part of what we lost during COVID. We moved away from touching things and building things and all of those things. And so how do we make sure in our plan, which really does exist in my head in a logical manner, how do we combine, how do we use our time most efficiently when we have the students in front of us and not lose that hands-on part of science?
So besides time, what do you need?
I don't need anything for science. I'm just gonna go up.
Julie.
I don't
Plan.
need
Got a
anything.
plan.
Yeah.
Can I ask
You
a
told us last year too.
Yeah, no, I just have a question about that. And it's not
You
a
told
knock.
me to be
No,
honest.
no, it's no, but it's a clarification question in
like that,
regards
though.
to, like, what does a good science program look like at an elementary school? And if an elementary school does have a great science program, where do they suffer? Because I don't, to your
Yeah.
point of time, I'm struggling to figure out, like, how can you address everything? But if you were to flip it, what's gonna fall off a cliff?
That's why we have to double dip. That's why we need to use knowledge building curriculum to meet multiple standards, so students are engaged in studying, what do plants need? They're reading, they're writing, they're learning science, all in one 60-minute chunk of time. So students are engaged in that unit of study, and they're learning multiple subjects through that one unit.
Yep.
And I truly believe that that's where we have to go in order to successfully meet. There are too many things to do within the 8:30 to 2:30 window, which really, when you take out a 40-minute lunch, a 46-minute specialist, beginning of the day, it's not actually that long of an amount of teaching, direct content, elementary time.
Gotcha.
So we
but
have to-
Just one, I'm trying to get to, what does a school that's really excelling, like, how did they do it? Like, do we know? And it's okay if we don't have that today. But I'm just
I do
wondering-
not have that today. I have
Okay,
hypotheses, but I don't have that.
What are your
Need more
hypotheses?
time.
My
Solid.
hypothesis is the students are reading and writing and learning about the content.
So what you're doing?
Yes, that's my hypothesis, is that the science MCAS is a reading knowledge assessment.
Thank you.
If I could, Madam Chair, it's funny how you look at that graph, and we pretty much are tracking what's happening statewide. So is there a conventional wisdom as to what is causing this, overall, not just in Danvers? And is it simply pandemic related, or what's the conventional wisdom as to why science scores around the
Because
state are dropping?
it's not even statewide, it's our entire country. For the my entire career has been focused on how do we improve standardized test scores. Again, this is my takeaway.
Understood.
And the theory of action for the last however many years was spend more time on math, spend more time on literacy. Dump, 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 do. And so subjects like science and social studies have been pushed to the edges. Okay, we do it for twice, we do it on Fridays for 30 minutes, we do it here. And now the research is shifting, and the current theory of action is that the more social studies and science students get, the more content, the more vocabulary, the more background knowledge they have, the stronger they are overall, the stronger they are at standardized assessments. So what we've been doing, and it's not just us in Danvers, it is the entire country, we fall, and I totally follow this. We're gonna have reading time, we're gonna have writing time. When you take those 2 times out, we're gonna have math, and then whatever we have left, you can hit social studies, you can hit science. But the country is shifting, what's actually happening is the research has been there, but there is a disconnect between people who do research and practitioners in the schools. And so what we're seeing right now in the literature, in the communications, is actually the researchers the connection between the research and the practitioners is now coming to fruition. So the research is not new, but no one in the field knew about it. The teacher preparation programs, this is what we learned. You have reading workshop, you have writing workshop, you have math. We were trained this way. It's ingrained in our heads. It's ingrained in our being. And now we need to change because now we know better. So now if the research says reading and writing need to be connected, if you're studying birds, you're reading about birds, you're writing about birds, you're learning about animal life cycles or whatever. So it has to be, the more background knowledge that students have, the stronger readers they will be. There's a study called the baseball study where students read a passage about baseball. And so say, well, this is not fair because John does know a lot about baseball. So John knows a lot about baseball. I think Brian might too, but pretend Brian does not. We'll go to Violetta. Yeah, okay. So John knows a lot about baseball. Violetta does not know anything about baseball. Violetta's actually a stronger reader than John. Doesn't matter. When you ask comprehension questions after reading the baseball article, John does better than Violetta. They did a whole study around, so they did a whole study around birds, and the students of higher socioeconomic class were able to, and they knew more about, when you test, they read a passage about birds, the higher socioeconomic kids did better on the reading comprehension questions about birds. Then they made up a passage about wugs, which is a totally made up animal. The difference in comprehension scores between the two groups of students, low socioeconomic and high socioeconomic, goes away because you took away the background knowledge, the vocabulary, what the high socioeconomic kids were coming in with, which allowed them to comprehend that text. Once it's about something, they thought it was a real animal, but it was a made-up animal. Once you take away that background knowledge, there was no difference in their comprehension results. So the research has been there, but we haven't implemented that research as a country because of the disconnect between researchers and practitioners. And so as a nation, we have to change how we do business and how we teach our children.
Awesome.
Good answer.
Good answer, Julie.
Yep. So,
ELA, Julie.
yeah, so we should probably move on and to get to the ELA data. So here we go. So we're getting to the ELA data, but to ground it, our goal this year for ELA is that 90% of all students will read at or above grade level as measured by the end of year reading assessments. So if you go to the first slide, you'll see this is our reading data at grade 3, 4, and 5 over time. You can see that, that there was, the pandemic hit and the scores came lower, both at the state and at in Danvers. And you can see in 2021, though, there was a little peak there. And again, that was not a full battery of testing, so they only had partial testing. So again, going back to what Desi says, 2022 is the new baseline. We have seen slight improvements from 2022 to 2023. Next is how we did in MCAS this year. And we're at the state average, a little above it, a little below it at each one of the grade levels, but basically we're right at the average. The good news is that the growth, though, is in that nice average range, so the kids are growing as a whole in the grade band, so that was good. It's in that band between 40 and 60. The cohort from grade 4 to 5 has improved. It was improved from 42% meeting or exceeding expectations to 46% of the students meeting or exceeding expectations. And then going over to the item analysis takeaways, essay scores were above the state average. So that was great because a lot of districts can't say that essay was strong for us. Stronger topics were main idea, inferences, text features, relationships between characters, identifying the organizational structure of a passage. The weak, which is going to play right into Julie's hands, and the knowledge-based curriculum is vocabulary was very weak, and determining meaning from a passage, and then using evidence from a passage, making a claim, and then going back into the paragraph, the passages, and grabbing the text that supports the claims that they're making. So that's, as Julie is about to tell you about the local data, we're going to see stronger skills in that areas with the curriculum we have now.
Can you go back just 1 second, please? When Mary and I looked closely at the item analysis, these scores very clearly tell us that we have a curriculum issue in ELA, but in a sort of backwards way, I was happy about the essay writing scores, and I was actually very happy to see that the weaker topics align with where we're headed. So I feel like even though the scores tell us we have a issue, it does validate where we're headed. Okay, so this is the slide from last June. So our journey into shifting our reading instruction really began. It began in the spring of 2022, but really continued in earnest last school year. As I shared with you last year, the district invested an incredible amount of money in decodable texts for our younger readers so that they have the opportunity to practice their phonics knowledge in controlled text. So if I'm learning about short vowels, my text that I'm practicing in is full of short vowels. We also shifted in using DIBELS K-5. DIBELS is our screener for early literacy skills. We used to only use it in our younger grades. We are now using it kindergarten through 5th grade to make sure that we are catching any students who are showing any needs before they leave elementary school. We also shifted our high frequency word instruction and engaged in considerable amounts of professional development. These slides I shared with you last June, where we started the year, middle of the year, end of the year. So we knew all this going into our planning for this school year. So if you flip to the next slide. So we knew going into this school year that we needed to work on fixing our Tier 1 curriculum and instruction problem. So based on those numbers, based on our local data, which was confirmed by the MCAS scores as well, we have an instructional Tier 1 curriculum issue that we need to solve in literacy. We took a first step towards that, towards solving that by implementing 95% core phonics in grades K-5. If you remember from last June, that's the curriculum that we piloted at Riverside in the younger grades, and it showed the students at Riverside showed incredible growth from the middle of the year to the end of the year. So this year we are implementing that program kindergarten through 5th grade. Kindergartners right now are working on letter, sound, correspondence all the way through 5th grade, where they're studying morphology and those pieces of the word that have meaning and have consistent spelling. So they help you, knowing those pieces, those morphemes, helps you understand vocabulary, the meanings of the word, and stirs up your writing as well, your spelling. So that's one huge, so the teachers have taken on implementing a new phonics program, kindergarten through 5th grade. In addition, we're piloting 2 different knowledge building curriculums at the elementary level, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. And we implemented an ELA MTSS block as well, which I'll talk about. So
Julie,
the
for
scores,
1 second, well, can you explain Tier 1 instruction is like the
Tier
foundational?
Tier 1 is instruction that everybody gets. So Tier 1 is your core curriculum that all students receive. And if your scores are not, Tier 1 curriculum should be reaching the majority of your students, and right now that is not true. So that's why we know we have a Tier 1 curriculum instruction problem. So where our scores land, this chart just continues, but I do want to point out 2 things. Last year we used DIBELS ORF, which is one of the subtests. It's called Oral Reading Fluency, and we use that as our measure to track student progress. We shifted the measure this fall for K-3. We were lucky enough to get a grant to do DIBELS digitally in kindergarten through 3rd grade, which is much more efficient, and you can run all these fancy graphs and click and have numbers immediately. And so for K-3, we have a composite score for kids. So that is a combination of all the different DIBELS subtests weighted in different manners to give you one number, like this student is reading at, below, well below grade level. So I use the composite score for grades K-3 as their average. 4th and 5th grade, we're still doing paper and pencil, so I continued with the oral reading fluency for their average. So this number does dip from the end of June 2023 to September. Some of that could be attributed to a different measure in K-3, but we also always see a dip over the summer into starting the school year. So what will be important is that we'll continue to report to you what these numbers look like in the middle of the year. And we're really hoping to end June 2024 higher than we ended June 2023. Can you keep going? So new curriculums that we're putting into place. This is a model that I think I've shared with you before. The idea being that to strengthen your reading comprehension, you need to have word recognition and language comprehension. So word recognition is, can I decode the words that are literally in front of me on the page? I could be a great decoder and still have no idea what I'm reading. So those are called word callers. I can read the words, but I have zero idea what I'm reading. So in addition to being able to decode the words, I also have to have language comprehension. That's my oral language, that's my vocabulary, that's my background knowledge. I need to know what I'm reading about. What vocabulary do I bring to the table when I'm reading this text? I need to have both sides of that equation in order to strengthen my reading comprehension. So in terms of word recognition, I feel very strongly about what we put in place. We're continuing Heggerty in the younger grades to work on phonemic awareness, and we implemented 95% core phonics, so we have a systematic explicit phonics program running kindergarten through 5th grade, and I think that was we love that it's going all the way through 5th grade, so we're really teaching our 4th and 5th graders these advanced phonics skills, prefixes, affixes, morphemes. That is going to help them with the reading complex text, reading multisyllabic words, so we're excited that it's not just ending in the younger grades. We're really doing that advanced work with phonics in the upper grades. In terms of language comprehension, so I told you we are piloting 2 different knowledge building curriculums the first half of this school year. The focus of these knowledge building curriculums is building that background knowledge, vocabulary, and oral language. By the middle of the year, we will have a decision about which curriculum we are going to move forward with. And so the combination of the shifting our tier 1 content instruction based on the research, based on the data, should increase our students' reading comprehension. And I just threw on there I just wanted you all to know that we invested essentially all of the elementary curriculum budget into, we also bought resources for our tier 2 ELA MTSS block. So we bought phonics level libraries for each school that have skill-based lessons that align back to our tier 1 curriculum. So all students are getting grade level phonics instruction. Then if I'm struggling with long E words, I'm then getting skill-based lessons focused on those long E words from a tier 2 curriculum that aligns back to my tier 1 curriculum. So I don't have to learn new routines, it's just a different skill. And the skill-based curriculum is not grade level based. I could be a 4th grader working on a certain skill, I could be a 3rd grader working on a certain skill. So I just want you to see that not only are we shifting our tier 1 curriculum, but in addition, looking at strengthening what we're using with students for specific skill-based knowledge. Next one. Okay, so the third piece to these shifts is strengthening our entire literacy model. So this slide is similar to one that I shared with you in June. The reading teachers, of which there are a few, as I told you, plus a literacy coach, all went to a conference in Worcester last year, and they came back with information, research, and they have a whole vision of how this could all come together and we can all work efficiently to make sure that all students get what they need. So in the schedules this year, there is a 30-minute ELA MTSS block. And the theory behind this is that teachers are working across a grade level with Title I support, special education teachers. We're working across a group of students to provide instruction based on what students need most efficiently. So I can talk a little bit more about it as we keep, there's more there. That was also a picture at Riverside. I walked by and they were having this awesome collaborative meeting, so I took it. It made me very happy. You do all this research and planning, and then to see it actually happening is very cool. So how do we plan for the ELA MTSS block? As I told you, all students are assessed on their screening 3 times a year in kindergarten through 5th grade. All Dibbles does is tell you this, it flags students. It doesn't tell you what John specifically needs to do work. It tells you, John, you need to look closer at John, okay? So it doesn't tell you, John needs to work on CVC words. It says, you need to look closer at John. Any student who is below or well below on any Dibble subtest, the reading teachers then did diagnostic screenings on. So those diagnostic screenings drilled down to the exact skill that students fell down on and where we need to begin instruction. Then we meet at data meetings and we look again at all students and we group students in skill-based groups, working across a grade level. Okay, can you flip to the next slide? This is an example of a first grade at one of the elementary schools. We changed some of the names to make sure it wasn't identifiable. But as you can see, this first grade has been broken up into 6 groups. And there's 2 things that I want to point out here. The further a group is away from benchmark, or a student is from benchmark, the smaller you want the group to be. So you can see that the phonological awareness group has 3 students in it. Then we've got extension groups, at grade level groups. Students are working across grade levels. So instead of me, as a 4th grade teacher, having to address that group, that group, that group, that, I have all these needs in my one class, but I might have 2 kids, 3 kids, 5 kids. By working across a grade level with an all hands on deck model, we can address all students' needs more efficiently and make sure that for that 30 minutes, students are getting all students, no one is left on their own, all students are receiving instruction that they need for that 30 minutes. And this is in addition to everyone gets their grade level curriculum. And the theory behind the research and the books that the reading teachers came back with was that this is how you move kids forward. Instead of one person trying to address all the varying needs in my class, we can work more efficiently, and the schedule is designed that each grade level has this block and it waterfalls. So no 2 grade levels have this same block at the same time. So any available staff floods that block. A huge component of this is planning and collaboration, which I have to say the teachers have taken on in a absolutely impressive and amazing way. The reading teachers have done an amazing amount of work collecting the data, putting the groups together, pulling resources together, making sure that we make this time not as purposeful and as efficient as we possibly can. Yep. So the last part about this is that the Department of Ed released early screening regulations. So as you can see, the Department of Ed is asking us to screen all students in K-3 at least 2 times a year. We are doing all students K-5, we're doing it 3 times a year. We need to use an approved screening device. Dibbles is a fully approved screening device through the Department of Ed. We need to have plan instruction to meet students' need for any student who's significantly below benchmarks. We are planning instruction for meeting all students' needs. Within 30 days of screening, any student who's significantly below benchmark, the school needs to inform the families. We are going to be informing all of our families, K-5, of the screening results, and they're going to be sent home on October 24th. Our families will be getting notified the day before to remind them that these are coming home. And the one thing that I would say is that if anyone's watching, to try to remember that the screening is given to all students. It's like a temperature check. How are we doing? The instruction that then follows is not necessarily based on the screening data. It is then based on the further assessment that students are given to determine what specific instruction that student needs. And the teachers are excited and they are prepared to have that conversation and share that work with families on conference day on Tuesday, November 7th. And all of that will be detailed to families in an email prior to the screening results being sent home. Okay.
Okay, ELA questions, thank you.
Oh, you can do it.
Mary.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just have a
I'll do
general
it.
comment. Like Julie, I mean, the entire staff, I think this has been one of the most thoughtful and really well done presentations I've seen on academics. I've been on this committee a little over a year. And what I've seen since the last year was you were implementing the plan, and now I see you executing and measuring and following. And last year we talked about, the kids that were slipping through the cracks, like K-5, going into middle school, and it looks like it's being addressed. And I just see this as a long tail of progress across the district that not only is benefiting the kids now, but we should see vast improvements once they get to high school. I mean, across math and across ELA. So I want to leave with a positive comment, because I think all of your answers have been really thoughtful, and your presentation has been great. So kudos to Mary and you and the entire staff. I mean, for me, I just thought this was really incredible. So thank you.
Thank you.
I guess first of all, I love when it comes to the ELA, seeing the focus on phonics. I think that's consistent with the science of reading. There was an article in the Globe, I think, very recently that talked about the real wisdom in the education world is that that's the way you do this. So I like seeing that. Could you go back to the previous slide real quick? So my question is, do you have students who really could benefit from being in more than one group? And if so, do they get the chance to be in? I see a lot of nodding heads. Okay, that's good.
So yes, obviously each student may need more than one skill, but there is a trajectory starting with phonological awareness moving forward through phonics. So the screener allows you to pinpoint the lowest point of where the student's breaking down, and you start there and you work sequentially forward. So the screener will tell you, okay, you need to start here. Yes, the student may have pockets of strength here, but you need to start at the point of the first breakdown and work your way forward through the scope and sequence of your phonics curriculum, because the skills build sequentially on each other. I will say that we have some students where it is a little bit more complicated. For example, our multi-language learners may be in groups within this block, but then also getting additional support at a third time, because they do need multiple skills instruction.
Yeah, so some students have to get what they need. Just sort of an overall comment on the presentation. Gabe's right, great presentation. And I would say this, I've always felt that to the extent that MCAS has value, I'm more interested in it as an informative tool for curriculum and teaching than I am scores necessarily. I think that we should chase behaviors in terms of student behavior, teaching methods, all of those things, as opposed to focusing on the scores. And if you get the behavior / practices part right, then the scores will go up naturally. So I think that's where your focus is, it sounds like, and I think that's where it should be. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alice, Josh?
Yeah, I'll take a quick one for it. So I agree with Gabe. I like the fact that you've identified an issue and talked what the adjustments were. The question that I have is similar to what Alice asked before. Are we spread thin on ELA? Do we need more, like, for budget? And
I'm supposed to say what I really think?
Yeah,
You are.
Yeah, let it
Safe
fly.
space.
I love that we have 8 reading teachers. That's amazing. What we need more at the elementary is we're still understaffed with our aide positions. And so I don't know how, and I know this is bargaining and contractual, but when we reach out to ask people if they want to be an aide, the salary automatically is not, it's not great. So I don't know how, that's a systems thing, that's a contractual item, but I really think that, yes, okay, agreed. Agreed, that having fully staffed buildings with the amount of, the teacher aides do amazing work, and they are asked to do 8 million different things every single day, and we don't have enough.
When you are saying all hands on deck, that includes our aides as well. I happened on the day that Superintendent Barrow was at Smith School, we walked by kindergarten. There was a kindergarten aide sitting in the hallway working with a small group. There was another aide working in a classroom with a small group. So we are utilizing our aids exactly the way they are meant to be utilized, but there's never enough hands on deck. So if we're really using our MTSS block to fidelity, it's the people that we need to be able to grab our small groups of students, to be able to give them the support that they need.
Great.
Yeah.
Then just one other question. Oh, did I lose my train of thought? No, I think I got it. Hold on. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So the reason that I latch onto this MCAS data and some of my other school committee members do is it's a data point, right? But I think that the other data point of the DIBELS or people meeting benchmark is possibly even more important, right? To see how they're doing. Have we ever extrapolated that data in this to see if people meeting benchmark, if that translates to MCAS scores and vice versa?
Yes, so on our Google Drive where we keep all this data, the MCAS scores are a column, and then all of our DIBELS scores are also there, so we are very easily able to look and see. I can do an exact comparison, but I can tell you anecdotally, if you're looking at a student who's partially meeting or not meeting, you're going to see some reds and yellows in their DIBELS scores. So automatically our sheets take well belows and they pop up red, and takes belows and pop up yellow, and so the same is true with our MCAS scores. So you're able to look at a specific student and look across on the data sheet, and if you see a color one place, you're likely to see a color another place. What it also does tell you, though, if there's a discrepancy, then it's worth also taking a look. Because most of the time you're like, yep, wait a minute, why does this not line up? Do we need to reassess the student? What was happening? It does pop in your head, hold on, why is there this discrepancy? What piece of the puzzle are we missing about this student?
Right.
So were you not surprised by the MCAS results?
Correct.
So
No,
could
they
I ask,
confirm exactly where our greatest need is, and the plan that we've been working on for the last year, which is still multiple years ahead of us of work. And I just need to add that I'm asking an incredible lot of the teachers. They're implementing a new phonics curriculum and piloting a new knowledge building curriculum and planning for an MTSS block. But I also have told them multiple times that this can't wait. We have to push forward. And they're on board and they're doing that work. But it is more work than curriculum work than we've ever done in any year prior to this year. So I feel
that's what
like
I
it's
take
like,
away from all of this is like the acknowledgement from everyone
Yeah.
else about the information that you're sharing with us. What's standing out to me is just the amount of new curriculum that we do have in our system, right? Which I think is wonderful. Do you get to a point, and this is just, I don't even know if you know the answer to this, do you get to a point where you're like, this isn't working?
yeah, we're already at that. Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, that's why we have the gas pedal on.
And now the gas pedal is on.
And it's going to take, about 3 years for the teachers to be experts in the curriculum.
So is your challenge right now more with educating, obviously, no fault of their own, you just said it, you're asking a lot of them. Is that right now where, I don't want to call it a weakness, but the opportunity is getting your teachers comfortable with the curriculums?
That's definitely a part of it. We definitely need to continue our own learning, our own working around this, our own understanding of what the research is. I think the major lesson that I've learned the last 10 years is to not believe what you read and to do your own research. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years and a half, is doing my own research. And so, because I can believe what I've read and what I've processed and what I understand. And so now we have a trajectory, we know where we need to go, but it is a huge mental shift, and anytime you take on that much new curriculum, it's also a huge planning shift and time suck and all of those things. So for even when you want to do the work, it's still a lot of work. I don't know if any. So it's a lot, but I think the teachers' commitment around the ELA MTSS block has been absolutely so heartwarming is not the right word, but I've just been blown away by their passionate about it, by their, I mean, it's another thing to prep, it's another thing to plan, and it's not easy to collaborate with 6 or 7 people and make a plan for the next week. And those aren't easy tasks to take on, and they're doing it, and they're doing it with passion and excitement, because I think they see the results, they see why it matters for kids. And they're piloting, I mean, we're asking a lot of them right now.
I think the impressiveness is their dedication to it.
Julie, do you need help?
No.
We're all here with her.
And she's got an amazing
We'd like
curriculum
5 of
team,
her.
an elementary
Right,
curriculum
each
team.
school.
No,
In
I
all
have an
seriousness.
amazing team. Allison, the math coach, Carrie, the literacy coach, and Tina Marie, who's the elementary librarian. All 4 of us work across the 5 elementary schools. And even though Allison is focused on math, she often is stuck in conversations with us, debating research, debating knowledge building, we have to be confident that we're doing the right thing. This is 5 schools, this is 1,500 kids, and it's moving 100 teachers, it's moving instruction in all those classrooms. So we better be 1,000% confident that we are doing what's best for kids before I turn around, because when I ask it to happen, it then happens. So I better be certain that I'm asking the right thing. So that's what keeps me up at night, is am I asking the right thing?
Julie, can I ask a question? Because I often feel like there's like a narrative around, well, this is why we got to get back to reading and writing, and, right? Like, oh, you spend too much time on SEL. You spend too much time on things are not important. Can you please just
Yes, I can.
address this?
Yes, I
because
can.
I do feel like it's just a misconception, and I'd like, I don't want minutes, but we covered a lot today
Yep,
at the
so
elementary level.
in the actual schedule, SEL is 10 to 15 minutes daily. It is a very small portion of our entire day. What I will tell you is that in theory, SEL is happening through all the content work. It's not, now we've done SEL, check, it's over for the day.
Yep.
We're supporting students' social emotional needs throughout the entire day. I can tell you that the most amount of time, money, and energy right now at the elementary level is around reading. It's around implementing new curriculum, implementing the ELA MTSS block with fidelity, with detailed, specific data-based instruction. That is where our energy is. That's where our focus is. I think that we can all agree that that is our #1 priority, is shoring up our reading instruction so that we can be confident the students we're sending onto middle school are strong readers and writers, and that is our that is our task ahead. It's that is our work.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Julie and team.
I just want to.
Yeah, you wanted to
I just
clarify
want
something.
to thank
Yeah.
Julie. She's been doing this research for 2 years and spent countless hours doing the work and research and becoming so passionate about it. And that's why everyone's behind it, is because she was passionate about her learning. She took it to her curriculum team and reading specialists, and they all got together, really dug deep into the research, met so much across last year before they started to roll this out. So, and then working with the school principal. So she's our lead learner, and she just models it well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I did want to address Mr. Honorio, got a, at public comment, he was talking about the accountability system. So we're talking about MCAS, and our accountability system is built off the MCAS results, but it's built off like a complex formulaic representation. So the composite score that he's talking about is built off of many different categories that gets to that score. So I think that another meeting to address accountability and talk about the accountability at each of the schools and then at the district level would be good. And give it the time that it deserves. Okay. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
The elementary team is free to go unless you, you can wait, but I'm sure you're all tired, so thank you so much.
Okay. The secretary moves to approve and release the minutes from the September 26th regular meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? So all those in favor to release the September 26th regular meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Any communications updates?
Nope, just,
Okay.
just using the regular, weekly update. I hope that's been helpful.
Yep. Anything NEC? No.
No, we have a meeting, at the end of the month.
Okay. Legislation?
Nothing this meeting, Madam Chair.
Okay. So subcommittees and liaisons, we have our curriculum and assessment subcommittee meeting on October 30th at 5:15. That's via Zoom. And that's combined also with our equity, so curriculum and equity. Policy, we just got the most recent update. Safety. we met.
That will be, I believe, the 30th.
Yes.
Is our next meeting.
Yep. Deep.
Wednesday.
Wednesday, yep. Danvers Cares?
We had a meeting, recently. I was away from that, the first regularly scheduled meeting, so, just covered some of the items, just looking to create more initiatives within the community.
CPAC.
Nothing right now. I know Mr. Superintendent included some in his update recently. But other than that, nothing additional.
So
And-
there, for the
The fair.
public, their fair,
Mhm.
general, I forget what it's called, but
Resource
general
fair.
information
Mhm.
Yeah, resource
for
fair.
parents.
Resource
is
fair.
this week, right? Yep.
Yeah, it's this week. Well, actually, it's October 25th from 6:30
Okay,
to
next week.
8:30. Yes.
That's
And
a
it's via
valuable
Zoom.
program
Yeah.
for anyone who is a special education student in the system.
And it's great because it's via Zoom. You just register and then you can like do it from your home. So, and then the last is human rights and inclusion.
Yeah, Gabe and I, I'm sorry, Gabe, go ahead.
Okay.
No, Gabe and I attended the last meeting, and I know Gabe, I think at the last school committee meeting, you mentioned that they're interested in an update for what the curriculum and equity subcommittees really do. Second time they've asked that, so we probably should consider a presentation for them or providing some information. There's a meeting this Thursday, I think it's the regular meeting, so I imagine I'll be there. I don't know if you'll be, Gabe, but one of us will be there, and
yeah.
maybe two of us. And Dan, they are interested in having you come to one of the meetings and meet with them too.
As long as I don't break a tooth again, that's why I missed the last meeting.
There you
so.
go, there you go. Try to keep them together this time.
Yep. And separately, I do have a great update. I mean, it was organized through Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, but it also involved the Danvers Public Schools, the town. Mr. Bartha was there. We had representation from our state reps, Ms. Lovely and Ms. Kerens. We held a fantastic dinner for our new arrivals. We were thankful to have it at the Danvers High School. I think we were expecting over 200 families, maybe 200 did attend. I mean, it was lively music. Can't thank Texas Roadhouse enough for, sharing the food and all the volunteers that came. Watching the families, interact and play chess and dominoes, and there was, their music was playing, and we had translators there, and the organization from Lynn, Center Board, where there was a absolutely phenomenal turnout, great positive energy. I thought Steve Bartha's comments to the families in regards to, you're now part of Danvers, you're welcome, was really heartfelt, and they really accepted that. And, when the translator said that, to see, kind of see them sit up and really applaud. I mean, there was dancing, there was music. It was absolutely beautiful, and it was beautiful to be a part of that. So, I mean, kudos to like the entire town of Danvers for just being a part of that and doing that, and getting that out more to the public is something that we should do. So I don't know if it's going to be covered in the patch or somewhere, but I think that has to be captured because it was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. So our next meeting is October 30th via Zoom. And just as a reminder, the rest of the meetings in person will be here at the Holton Richmond Middle School at 6:30. So I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None?